Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, March 24th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Well, the name of the game this morning is balance, right? We were due for it yesterday, and we got it, which is a day for the market to just kind of cool off and relax a little bit, right? We had this massive move up. We call that excess. The market often has to balance off excess when it creates this much this quickly. And there's two ways the market can balance off that excess. It can go sideways at higher prices and then either break out to the upside or downside of that balance, or it can pull back down with price, looking for support somewhere, and then it can get continuation higher from there. Both of those are ways for the market to balance off excess. So far, it looks like yesterday may have just been the beginning of a sideways balance type of thing, pretty much using yesterday's low as a potential balance area low and the previous day's high. So using like the 44, 46-ish area as a potential balance area low and the 44 or 45.15 area as a potential balance area high, we could be looking to just kind of bounce around in here. That seems like that's what the market wants to do. We are opening inside the previous day's range, or we've just opened inside the previous day's range. So in the morning, first thing here, we're just expecting chop. We're expecting the market to just grind up and down for the first half an hour or so, at least. And then as far as picking a direction, so that first scenario, which seems the most likely to me, sideways rotation like this, that would be basically looking for support somewhere above the overnight low. So we might get it right in here. We might get it down in here. But essentially just finding support somewhere inside of yesterday's range and then turning around and heading higher. That would be bullish, at the very least, to get to yesterday's high, if not the previous day's high. Okay. Or if we dip below yesterday's range, so if we were to push below yesterday's low, but then immediately kind of pull back up, that would be the same thing. We would be targeting the opposite end of yesterday's range. And only really if we break yesterday's low and then get continuation lower from there, do we start to get bearish. Okay, so if we push below here, come back up, and then we can't get back into yesterday's range, then we would get bearish looking for that larger pullback. Right? That's where we would assume, okay, maybe the market's not trying to balance by going sideways. Maybe this was the first day of a larger pullback that's going to happen. So we would be keeping an eye out for that. But again, we need to get below yesterday's low and then find resistance. Because if it's a balance area, it is no problem whatsoever for the market to dip below and then shoot right back up. Okay, so we want to wait for that resistance before we get really bearish here. And then to the top side, I would say, again, yesterday's high is the first target. If we can get up there, get above it, find support, the target becomes the previous day's high, and then same thing there. Although I am assuming there will be resistance waiting up here. So we'll have to wait and see. But for now, we just watch the chop. The market will go up and down, and we just wait to see which direction it breaks based on yesterday's range. Also, it's worth noting we had a spike down at the end of the day yesterday. That is bearish to see, but the fact that we opened above that spike is sort of neutral. It's the least bearish scenario. Okay, we got really bad taper on the high there. Particularly not just the taper, the fact that the A period high is weak because it stopped exactly at a weak reference from yesterday. Both of those things increase the odds that we will need to push back up there at some point, which makes sense as we're expecting chop. Good morning, Diego. Chris Yee in the house. Scooball, hello to you. Cyrus is here. Hi. MW, good morning. Jose, good to see you. J Trader is here. Rev back with us. Greetings. Jeremy Jones is here. Philip, good morning to you. Slim Jim in the house. Dean back with us. Amir is here. Hustler forever. Boss Man, and Rocket. Rocket conference notes soon to be in the wind. Second good morning, Slim Jim. Doubly excited to see me. Good to see you. Gunk, good morning to you. And TV, welcome. Cobra FX from Spain, good to see you. Welcome. Greg is here. All right, so we should be finding support pretty soon here for a push back up towards that high. Remember, anytime something we would expect doesn't happen, that becomes a signal. So far, we haven't gotten any chop this morning. It's just been a straight move lower. So when you open up inside the previous day's range, after the overnight just rotated, and you're expecting chop, if you don't get it, that is a signal as well. So we're not quite there yet, but it's starting to feel bearish. There should be some buyers in here if we're going to just go sideways today. If you have not yet, please press that like button. Really helps out the channel. Scooball overnight wasn't net long. Yeah, it was. It was net long. So you're right. You would expect some kind of counter auction. That's why I say it's a little too early to get completely bearish, but it is something to keep in mind. We're expecting chop here. If we don't get it, that's a signal. Douglas, I use 4 p.m. as the close time. All right, we got good taper on the low. So we should be able to push back up towards that opening price and repair that weak A period high. Two Manifs, good morning to you. Trading Donkey, I'd say if we find support and then push back through the open without breaking yesterday's low, we're good to go back to 4,500. Yeah, I wouldn't say just because we get above the A period high, but certainly finding support above yesterday's low increases the odds that we're going to get a rotation up to look for resistance up here. So at this point, we're looking for resistance and then a push back down towards the halfback. See if we can find some support in there. 44.63-ish. Chop, chop, chop. Chop it goes. Which will be the signal? No one knows. So obviously at this point we are finding support on that halfback. So if that can hold, that should be enough to push us back through the resistance that we're dealing with right now, right at the opening price. And that should get us up here to repair. If we can get through that opening price again, we should head up to repair this week K period high at 44.72. Looking for resistance in there as well for continued chop. Okay, we created another week A period high because we stopped right at the previous week reference to a tick from yesterday's K period. So that is in need of repair, still above. And the chop continues. Cortman, most channels follow ES, not NQ so much. Other than liquidity, is it more difficult to trade than the ES? Yeah, I think the liquidity is part of what makes the ES easier to trade. It's more reliable. Its moves are more consistent. And also the volatility. That's the thing for me why I can't trade the Q is it's just too volatile. You know what I mean? If you get into a trade and it goes your direction, well, great. You know, you feel like the king of the world. But as soon as you get in a trade and it goes against you, you're like paralyzed. You're like, oh man, look how far it's going. It just, and you have to use these massive wide stops. So that's why I prefer the ES as it's a little less volatile. And just easier to read. All right, well, as the chop continues here into the B period, whichever direction the B period breaks of the A period, whether it breaks the A period high or the A period low, we should get at least a little bit of continuation in that direction. But we are still experiencing chop. So the market is undecided at this moment where it's going today. We do have good taper on the low and a weak high that needs repair. But value is inside of yesterday's value, and we're really just dancing around yesterday's POC. So indecision still at this point. Fat Thor, what is the ticker for the S&P 500 advancers versus decliners? It is ADSPD. Okay, so we got up there and repaired that weak high that we had. And we now have the initial balance to the upside. So that's a little bit bullish. But still nothing exciting until pretty much until we get above 44.86. We're still very likely to just get chop inside yesterday's value. But it's a tiny bit more bullish chop. All right, so now we're looking for support in what was resistance before, so about 44.70. We're looking for the market to find some support there if it's going to get continuation of the move to the upside. All right, so here's where we're looking for the support. Can they get those ticks back above the zero line? If so, they should be able to head up to that high and take another poke at it. Trading Donkey watching 68. Big Ray, in my opinion, breaking below 60 now would be a win for the Bears. I don't really see it that way. Like I said, anything inside of yesterday's range to me is neither bullish nor bearish. It's just rotation. It's just the same thing we got in the overnight. So I'd start to get bearish if we broke today's low, like the A period low, 44.55, but only really to test, like 44.47. Not necessarily for a larger pullback. In the same way that I won't really get bullish unless we get above this node from yesterday. As just spending a day rotating around inside this range would not be unreasonable. It worked for the overnight. Well, what does that mean, Charles? What are you trying to tell us? You keep talking about chop. You keep talking about waiting for us to get above this level or below that level. What do we do in the meantime? In the meantime, you got two choices. Either you take short trades, scalpy type of trades, where you just get in at support, get out right at the next resistance, and you just take those little bites, or you sit back and wait. This market will present great opportunities, just not yet. Nothing wrong with sitting on your hands waiting for a better trade. Trading Donkey concurring with Big Ray that getting down into yesterday's spike would be bearish. Don't forget the potency of a balance area low. If this is a balance area low, we can fall like a brick into it and then reverse right back up and out. Of course, we don't know yet. We have no idea, but just something to think about. Okay, so I'm looking for support here around 44.58. This little note of volume from yesterday or from earlier this morning to turn around and chop our way right back up, looking for resistance at halfback. However, with the ticks trending lower, if we do break that A period low, I'd look for us to head down and test the lows from yesterday. So if we break 44.56, look at 46 as a potential target to the downside. But at the moment, I'm still assuming we'll find support and then head back up within that A period range. Mike, we also had an inside day yesterday, including the overnight. So that adds to the indecision and just waiting. Correct, yeah. That was the signal. Yesterday was the signal that the big move to the upside is coming to an end, right? And the excess is over. So now how do we balance, right? Lots of different ways. We could just rotate at higher prices. We could have a pull back down that immediately V-shapes back up. We can do a big sideways range. We don't know. But we know the up move is done. That's what yesterday told us. There is, of course, door number 3 where we only have the 1 day of balance and then we take off from there to the upside. But that's the least likely in my mind. All right, so now does this node around the halfback that was acting as support earlier, does this now become resistance? Are we unable to push our way back through this big node we're currently in? Trading Donkey, you can argue that we're still one time framing up on the daily. I don't know how you could still argue that. Yeah, I guess so. Still looks like balance to me. I highlighted this area yesterday. What was the reality check on your bearishness? She said, the day you retake the 200 daily simple moving average after a quarter long correction ain't the time to be bearish. She's right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not bearish. I just think we need to balance. Expecting the market to cool off for a little bit is not bearish. Skewball halfback, POC, opening, daily VWAP, all at the same point. Indecision. Yes, sir. Look at where the point of control was in the overnight. And look at where it was today and yesterday. So traders do not want to stray far from that fairest price to do business. That is indecision. Okay, so once again, looking for support around 44.58. Hustler forever, about to fall asleep on this market? Yep, I think it's gonna be one of those days where they slow grind us around all day and then out of nowhere we get a liquidation break or a short covering rally. And everyone's so angry they missed the move. Bet you it's one of those days. All right, well, there's no clear insights to leave you with here today. We are still inside of yesterday's range. We're still inside of the overnight range. And we are just kind of bouncing around, bringing in volume and spending time right in this exact same area where we brought in volume and spent time yesterday and in the overnight. So that is a sign of there's no change in the market yet. The participants are still uncertain. They're just picking each other's pockets, making little bets here and there. But there's no real leadership. So, this isn't a market for me to trade. This is a market to sit back and wait for an opportunity. At this point, the break of the initial balance, so getting above the B period high or the A period low, should get some continuation. I would say at the very least to yesterday's high or low. So if you break the A period low, you can probably target getting down to yesterday's low. And if you break the B period high, you could probably target at the very least 44.87, if not 44.94. But other than that, it's likely to just grind around until we get some leadership. With that, I bid you all farewell. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you here tomorrow morning. Only 48 likes today. Feel free to smash that like button on your way out. I sure would appreciate it.